I made a massive real estate investing mistake that cost me 10 years of progress and millions and millions and millions of dollars in lost opportunities. And I want you to avoid making the same mistake. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through exactly what I did wrong and what you can do to avoid it. So make sure you hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss more videos about building wealth through multifamily real estate. I'm Seth Ferguson. Let's get right into it and talk about my biggest mistake. So we have to go back in time to start things off and kind of figure out where I went wrong.
It's 7 years ago. My time machine works.
So I'll put an X right here. This is the past, the ghost of Seth investing past. So where I was at here was I was a real estate broker. I was buying and selling homes. That was my job. And I was making what most people would consider really good money. But the problem was, as fast as the income was coming in, it was going out just as fast for the fancy car, the 4-bedroom house I was living in by myself, all that kind of stuff. It was going into lifestyle types of expenses and I had nothing left over. I was in my 20s, everything was fine, but it was a really sickening feeling that, hey, I'm not building anything. So I started acquiring single family homes because that was what I was familiar with. That was what I was comfortable with. That's what I knew. So my partner and I at the time started building a small rental real estate portfolio of single family homes. Now, this is where things started going wrong. I started acquiring property and building a portfolio, but I was missing a key component of any real estate investor's game plan. Huge component. And this is my biggest mistake, right? So I was here, I was acquiring all these single family homes, but I had no idea where I needed to go, where I wanted to go, my final destination. And the easiest way to understand my huge mistake is thinking of a road trip, right? Like if you're going on a road trip and you're going from point A to point B, you need a map. You need to know which roads to take, whether you're taking the highway or the back roads. You need to figure out how long you have to drive for, if you have to stay overnight in a hotel, how much gas you need, what kind of car you need, all that kind of stuff, right? You need to know all that information to be able to successfully navigate from point A to point B. So as a real estate investor, for me starting off, I totally screwed up because I started acquiring property without even knowing where I need to end up. So I basically went on a joyride, a road trip with no destination in mind. Huge mistake, and it cost me big. Because what happened was I started acquiring property, but I had no way of knowing whether it was the right property to acquire or not. I didn't have a vision. I didn't know what my parameters were or how I could think about my decisions and come back and assess whether or not it was the right thing to do. I was just investing with no idea whatsoever. And this is a huge mistake I see so many beginner investors doing. And it actually took me about 10 years to realize that I was doing it all wrong. Because the truth is, when I actually sat down and figured out that I needed a destination and I needed to know where I was going, it was far too late. Because what happened was this portfolio, let's say this is my roadmap right here on how I would get to my destination. My portfolio that I had amassed was actually taking me in the totally opposite direction. I was building something that was taking me farther away rather than closer to my goal. Huge mistake. What I should have done, and what you need to do if you haven't done this yet, is actually think about your destination. What type of life do you want in 10 years? Where are you going? What are you working toward? What are you doing? What's important to you? How do you see your life being put together in 10 years or in 15 years, however long you want to make it? Because that way you can actually then work backwards and figure out exactly what you have to do to make that vision a reality. So instead of thinking from the past or the present, I should say, forward, you have to think about the future and work backwards. A great story I always like to tell is I had this gentleman on my podcast, very successful lawyer and real estate investor, and his life goal is to run his entire portfolio from a pub in Ireland. That's his goal, right? He wants to sit and have a Guinness and run his entire portfolio from a pub in Ireland. So you betcha that every single decision he makes, from management to structuring to accounting to every single thing he makes, the size of the asset he acquires, everything he does is geared towards making his future a reality. So he can work backwards. So he's sitting in a pub in Ireland right here in the future. He can work backwards and figure out who he needs on his team, what types of deals he has to acquire, what type of parameters they have to fit into to make that a reality, and then he works backwards rather than me being really silly and not knowing any better, just starting to acquire property and then just trying to figure it out without knowing that destination because I had no game plan whatsoever. So you need to figure out exactly where you're going and then start working backwards. And when I finally came to my senses and I did this, I realized that if I had continued on the single family home route, I would have had to own 1,000 houses to hit my goal. Can you imagine owning 1,000 houses? That's 1,000 roofs, 1,000 mortgages, 1,000 tax bills, more than 1,000 tenants because I probably would have done duplex and triplex conversions on them. That is absolute insanity. This was not sustainable, and I probably should have figured that out 10 years sooner because it took me a decade to figure out that I needed that destination. One of the very first things that I do with my students in Discover Multifamily, which is a program designed to take you from zero, ground zero, not having done any multifamily deal, to taking you through step by step to your very first multifamily investment, the very first thing we do is this exercise. I call it My Decade Vision. And I walk you through step by step in a very systematic manner how to create your decade vision. And then we actually align what you want to accomplish to your investing parameters, and then we fill everything in between. This is the most important thing that everybody should do, and so many people skip it. They don't do it, and then they end up like me with a whole bunch of regret because they just missed out on a decade and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I'm not over exaggerating. So my biggest mistake, not having the end result, not doing the My Decade Vision exercise and working backwards. I just started doing things just because with no game plan. If you're doing this, stop right now and figure out where you want to go, and that's going to make your life so much better. You're going to make better investing decisions. You're going to make better decisions in terms of structuring, who you bring on your team, all that sort of stuff. This is crucial. I can't overemphasize that enough. Please don't repeat my biggest mistake. I want you to be successful and make sure you have your decade vision. If you're interested in joining the next cohort for the Discover Multifamily program, join my free Facebook group, link down right below. Great group of people, and send me a message and I'll make sure you get all the information you need to join the program. And if you enjoyed this video, if you found this useful, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what you think. It really helps out the channel and the algorithm. And until next time, happy investing.